Hello, and welcome to C-Suite Secrets. I'm Heather Parsons, your host, a serial entrepreneur, a fractional CFO, and a business strategist. I've spent years juggling businesses and family life while helping entrepreneurs scale, optimize cash flow, and build real financial success. On our show, we'll bring you real conversations with founders, executives, and operators about what really moves the needle in their business. No fluff, no filler, just smart strategies, systems that work, and insights that you can put to work in your business right away. And with that, let's dive right in. Today, we have Jerry Luftman on the show. Jerry, welcome.
I'm delighted to be here, Heather. Looking forward to it.
Glad to have you. I'd love it if you could tell our audience a little bit about your career and how you ended up as an entrepreneur.
Okay, well, I'm a professor, so professors profess. So you can't tell me to say a little bit about, but I will try. I promise. Okay.
That's good.
So I'm a retired IBMer. At IBM, I owned lots of different products for them over the large number of years that I worked there and got gray hairs. I helped them start their management consulting group. I was part of their customer executive education group, and I was a CIO while there. And when things were not going quite well with the economy way back when, they offered an early retirement. And I was teaching at Columbia University and Stevens and said, well, maybe I'll do this full time. And Stevens Institute of Technology, which is in Hoboken, New Jersey, was a pure technical school at the time. And then we were talking about starting a school of technology management. So I went there and started the new school, and the focus was on IT management, and it became extremely successful. And I was there for 20 years also. And throughout my time at IBM and Stevens, I've always participated in different boards of directors, whether it's academic or business. And I always recognized the gap that existed in what universities and other training companies were providing, and really focused too much on the technology and not on the industry and leadership and management of these technologies. So I wanted to really focus on that. And universities are not the most flexible entities in the world. So, and my wife of a lot of years said she'd divorce me if I retired. So I decided to start my own company about a dozen years ago. So we started the Global Institute for IT Management, and it leveraged my large network that I have grown over the years of both academics and professionals to serve as faculty as well as network to help market programs in their respective organizations. And now we've grown candidly all over the globe, both at universities and commercial environments and management associations. And I'm having a ball. I can't slow down. There are too many exciting things going on with all of these emerging technologies, and the demand to understand the management aspects of leveraging these technologies is very, very large.
Yeah.
With the 20 plus years at IBM and 20 years at Stevens and 12 years at the Global Institute, it puts me at 120 years old, but I keep myself in good shape.
I love it. That's fabulous. So, one question I have for you is, going from working at a large institution like an IBM, and transitioning and going to owning your own business, what was some of the learnings that you had there and how'd you handle that?
That's a great question. And candidly, the bigger change was going from being a middle manager in a large company and going into academia. And, where's my staff?
Right?
I mean, I had a great administrator working for me at the university, and had lots of faculty working for me and interns, but it's not the same as having your own staff where you can delegate things and it gets done. So it was a major, major change, candidly, in going from a commercial environment to an academic environment. And I keep looking back and saying, if I was really smart, I would have just taught and not get into the management and being a dean and the politics and things like that, because the teaching is the fun part. So any of your audience that's looking to get into teaching, it's a very rewarding area, and it's not the same thing as getting into the management aspects of a university. And then now leaving a university to your own business. Well, look, I had a large bureaucracy, with all due respect, at IBM, and a very different kind of bureaucracy at a university. Everything is committees and decisions and takes time. And now the only person I have to ask for permission to do anything is my wife of a lot of years. And she's usually less bureaucratic than a big company or a university. And, it's nice being able to move at warp speed, and also to be very, very flexible with what we call our affiliates, our clients. So, we pride ourselves, candidly, not just on the breadth of our digital management education programs and our faculty, where we've got over 300 faculty members, but on our ability and willingness to be flexible and really try and meet the demands of the candidates, the students who want to take our programs and understand these important disciplines that we focus on.
I love it. I know we talk about it. My husband has a commander in chief now that he's retired, and it's not the same one everybody else thinks of. So I like what you're talking about with you and your wife and how you're making it work. I'd love to talk a little bit about how you've built your bench. Can you tell me a little bit about that, especially on a global scale?
Yes. Well, that's also good question, and a very different perspective than the kind of things I usually ask. So I greatly appreciate it. As I alluded to earlier, my bench we have over 300 faculty. Plus, I've got a few full-time people. So we're largely a virtual corporation. So my 300 plus faculty, we basically bring in when there's a program to teach, and we pay them when they teach the respective program. And that largely came from my years of being very active in different management associations and academic associations. So I've got a very, very large network of IT executives, information technology executives, and managers and consultants and academicians. So depending on the audience, what we select the faculty team that does the teaching, not just on their subject matter expertise, but on their perspective. So, for example, we've done probably 15 global programs. They don't care about master's degrees. They don't care about certificates or certifications. And they want to go to a nice venue for a day or two, maybe 3, and focus on the stuff, get to the meat. Let's discuss this stuff. They don't want to be lectured to. So I can take the same course, syllabus, description, and give it to the group of CEOs from large corporations, but use that same basic model for a newbie, somebody that just graduated with a degree in computer science that has no management experience at all. But the focus is extremely different. And the faculty member that would be selected to do the actual program or course would be entirely different. So I couldn't teach the technical stuff anymore. I'm long past that. And others who just I wouldn't dare put in front of a Global 1000 CEO. They would, turn them off. So we've got a strong network for each of our 35 4-course programs, fit into the respective 300 faculty members and their expertise. We draw upon the faculty based on their expertise and where they would fit and where they are located. So we have affiliates around the globe, as I mentioned, and we try to save money in travel as well as language and cultural considerations by using local faculty whenever possible. In addition to the teaching, our affiliates, some affiliates do the actual recruiting. So we don't actually recruit directly to individuals ourselves. We have affiliates around the globe. So affiliates could be a university, a management association, consulting firm, professional recruiters, people with large networks. And we pay them very nicely and we co-brand the program and they do the recruiting. And I can't recruit somebody in Asia, Africa, Latin America in New York. You need boots on the ground. You need people who understand the respective things that are important to them. The financial considerations are very different for the different geographies. So we're fortunate enough to have a very, very good network spread across the globe and bring in the right people at the right time. And being able to be flexible, like I said, is really a key parameter to our success.
I think that's a really good point. Talking about, talking about teaching the technology stuff, that changes so rapidly right now. I mean, just keeping up with that alone, I can't imagine that. But whenever it
I
comes,
can't either, Frank.
right, exactly. It moves so quickly that before a lot of this stuff could get built, things have changed. So
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. I mean, we don't do the same exact course twice in a row. It's always different, and it's different because the technology is constantly changing. We're learning more about the technology. And obviously, like I said, the audience is different. So the same fundamental program with some of the same fundamental areas of concern are focused on very differently. So every time I do a course, I look at it and we change it to meet the demands and needs of the audience. And obviously, when we do a program with the university, you have to maintain the academic rigor. So you have a whole another set of considerations to ensure the courses get accredited.
right. And you mentioned something else that I also want to touch on is around building this out globally, and finding the right people to do the right role.
Uh-huh.
I would love to hear your perspective on how small businesses can do the same thing, right? Because it's more than just the joke doesn't translate. I think a lot about my, clients in Europe and other folks that I work with, and it's really a lot about how do we work well together and get the desired outcome. And I'd love to hear your perspective on that too.
It's really a challenge, quite candidly, especially on the marketing side. The faculty side, uh, I know them, or I know somebody who knows them, so I could be confident that they're going to meet the expectations of a successful delivery of a program or a course. The recruiting part, the marketing part, much more challenging. If you do a university, for example, you know what you're going to get pretty much. I mean, they're recruiting their students and network of organizations. If you're doing a program at a company, it's the internal company. But the generic recruiting is where the challenges come, and even universities are struggling with that candidly today. Um, what I would share to your team, your network of folks, is you got to really understand and manage the risk. So when I start a discussion with somebody overseas, the first thing they always ask for is exclusivity. Well, I'm
Mm,
not prepared to give anybody exclusivity to start unless I really, really know them. And I basically let them know I'll ensure that there's no duplication or overlap or competition with others that we might have in the same geography. And I tell them if they're successful after a year or two, I'm happy to talk about exclusivity and have the other affiliates in that respective geography get consolidated and report to them. But risk management, I think, is the most important consideration because you will fail or make mistakes more often than you will succeed. I mean, everybody promises the world and very few come through. So you need to make sure that you do that. And the other thing is the model for compensation. Um, Number one, I don't give any upfront fees for people to start up and get infrastructure and a building and whatever. I expect them to take similar risk in it like I've taken, and they can invest whatever they like. But I then offer them a very lucrative revenue sharing model, and they keep that money, and how they invest it is really up to them. So they're entrepreneurs in their own right, but they're getting a subset of the revenues that they generate. They're not getting a salary, and they're not getting any upfront money for any kind of investment, and we don't ask for a franchise fee. And I think that's very fair, and I always try and be very fair in any initiatives that we ensue.
I love it. I think that's really smart, and one of the things, even thinking about it as we work with our kids, right? So thinking about it from that vein as well, I think everybody has to have skin in the game and making it to where they are also engaged. They're also having to put some capital up front as well as time is really smart for any business, whether it's here in the States or overseas or wherever, because a lot of us who have been in business for a while know what it takes to get started and how much you really have to be committed. And on when days that it sucks and it's not fun, you still have to follow through and deliver.
Yeah, you got it. So I often use the analogy that I'm sure you and your folks have heard about, the chicken and the pig making breakfast for the farmer, right? They don't share the same risk. The chicken is giving their eggs, and the pig is giving their butt. So it's not the same level of risk. So, I mean, I always ensure I'm not going to be the pig in our relationship. But at the same time, I don't want you to be the pig either.
Right.
I want you to share in the risks and rewards, and I don't want you to feel like you're being slighted, just like I'm not going to be slighted. I think by keeping that type of an approach of fairness and sensitivity in negotiating agreements, I think it's really helped in the success that we've been experiencing.
I love that. And I think that's a great analogy when it comes to working together like that. I would also love to hear your thoughts on how you're bridging the gap between this technology and really becoming a good leader with the folks that you're working with.
I mean, that's what we do. I mean, that's our focus. I mean, again, there are thousands of companies out there that do technical training. We don't do that, although we can and we have. Our focus is on how do you take a technical person, our sweet spot, making a technical person more effective in working with their non-IT business partners. So our sweet spot tends to be IT professionals with 10 or more years of experience. They've proven themselves as good technicians, perhaps good project managers or lower level managers or consultants or service providers. And they're looking to move up in their careers and be more effective in leveraging their technical skills to be more effective in working with their non-IT business partners. That being said, by large margin, that's our major source of candidates. But the fastest growing candidates are non-IT executives who read about emerging technologies, and there aren't many places where they can go who can convey what these considerations are in terms that these non-IT executives could understand. I often say, you can take a programmer or a database person or a security person, whether they're from Bangalore or Brooklyn, the technical skills are pretty much the same. They're good. They're very good. What differentiates them are the business management, leadership, communication, industry skills that are necessary to really be successful in today's world. Now, the thing that drives me nuts, and it's happening right now, everybody hears about AI, everybody, wants to be AI. we're making the same dumb mistakes today with AI that we did when I didn't have gray hair and I had a lot more hair. I mean, in the original database products, or when we first introduced personal computing, or when we first
Yep.
introduced the internet and web. And the problems are getting IT and non IT people to work together. We call that alignment or integration or harmony, whatever. And even in today with AI, we're seeing the failure rate of AI initiatives today are the same failure rate of initiatives we did way back when, and the reasons are the same thing. We're not getting IT and non IT organizations to work together. You can't just say, here's AI, IT, do it, right? You don't get benefits from the technology. You don't get benefits from the internet. You don't get benefits from social networking or data or whatever. You get benefits from how the business changes what they do to take advantage of the technologies that will get you the value. And IT can't change the business. They need to work together again with the non IT team to talk about how to change the business to take advantage of the technologies that they have responsibility for. The CIOs, the IT executives who really can have an impact on changing how the business does things are few and far between, because it's the business people that really own it. I mean, I
Right.
always tell folks that, when you're asked to do an initiative, you typically are asked to do a business case. Okay,
As you should be.
yeah, good.
Yep.
But it's not an IT case, it's a business case. So IT shouldn't be doing the business case in a vacuum. They should be
Right.
doing it along with their business partners, but they don't. And again, the same silly mistakes are being made over and over. And that's good for me because that's where my courses come into bear. And we try and convey to IT and non IT managers and professionals what they need to do to ensure success. And it's rocket science. It's just a matter of understanding the necessity of getting non IT people more engaged. You don't have to be technicians to do that. Even in a small company like you tend to work with, you're not. These people can't be technical people, nor should they be, and they don't even have a technical staff in many cases. But they do have to interface with outsourcing service providers and understand the kind of things that really are necessary to ensure a successful deployment of these emerging technologies. And they have to use emerging technologies in today's world. If they're not, they're not going to succeed, no matter how big or small their organization might be.
Right. I couldn't agree more. And, I think about my previous roles in working as a finance professional in technology, and it becomes more and more clear, right? So, developing out that business case, talk to someone about it today. So, the business is why the technology is there in the first place. They're interdependent. They have to work together. And then you have to convince somebody like me that it's worth the investment, right? So how do you put it in terms that your CFO or your CEO and your leadership team sees the value? It's not the technology, it's what value does the technology bring and how do
Exactly.
you implement it?
Exactly. And with all due respect, CFOs, and if there are any CFOs listening, I apologize ahead of time. CFOs are the last ones to be asked because CFOs are measured in reducing, cut, reduce costs. But now IT is there to increase profits and revenues, which means
Right.
a large investment and risk taking. So a large challenge is the role of the CFO in approving or not approving. And the last place that IT ought to report is the CFO. And unfortunately, because of ancient history, more CIOs report into the CFO than to any other part of the company. And that's clearly not where it should be.
Right. I think that we have to have our shared values, right? So, being a CFO, being in the finance space and technology, and this is where I think CFOs get a bad rap. You have to realize that you're there to work together. and you have to bring your CFO along on the technology journey, and they need to bring you along on the constraint journey. So I'm not a huge fan of cost cutting. I'm a huge fan of intentional investment. So I'm not really looking to always slice the budget. I want to be able to defend it and be there for my technology leaders to say, this is why we're doing this. This is why we have cost overrun. This is what we're doing about it. And really be that partner for them on the journey. And where I don't see that going well is when these organizations act like brother and sister and they're always fighting, you
Oh,
know, rather than being together, which is where they really need to be, because the company is what matters, not their individual area.
I mean, candidly, it's even more challenging today because oftentimes, even within IT itself, there are battles of brothers and sisters. I mean, everybody wants to report to the CEO. So, I mentioned that the last place the IT organizations you report to is the CFO, but everybody wants to report to the CEO. So now you
Yeah.
have a CIO, the Chief Information Officer. You have the Chief Technology Officer, CTO. You have the Chief Information Security Officer, CISO. You have the Chief Data Officer, CDO. And you have now the Chief AI Officer, and they all want to report to the CEO.
Can't
Guess what?
happen.
Guess
They'd
what?
never get any
Of
work
course it
done.
can't happen. And then they argue about it, and they end up fighting with each other and not supporting each other. And oftentimes the alignment, the harmony within IT itself is less effective than IT and non-IT organizations. So it's a fun environment.
For sure. And you touched on another thing there, that I'd like to talk about as well. So, being in this and seeing how technology's progressed, been doing this for quite a while myself. I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you see technology going and what are some of the things that entrepreneurs just can't afford to ignore.
With all due respect, if I knew the answer to that, I'd be on the phone with my financial investor.
Right?
But I will give you my perspective anyway.
Let's hear it.
I mean, we're seeing a lot of articles and discussions about AI, the hot technology, and the implications of AI. It's going to replace every job. It's going to replace programmers. It's going to replace entry level jobs. And candidly, it might happen eventually, in large part with certain careers. But we've been talking about automation and robotics for decades now. I mean, it started with manufacturing in the automobile industry, and you still had people working in the manufacturing plants. Um, the change is going to happen, and whether we want it to or not, and how technology is deployed is always slowed down because of the change in people that are required to make sure that it's successful. So the change management aspect and how people accept the changes is extremely slow, and you take that in concert with the things we talked about before regarding getting IT and business people to work harmoniously together. It's not going to happen quickly. I mean, everybody, is getting over the hype of AI and getting down to the reality, and it's going to take time before we see major changes. And some of them people might not be happy with. Some of them they will be happy with. Some will see, the evolution of, say, 20-hour work weeks and more things given to the automated uh, processes. This is good. And the question is, what do you do with that extra time on your hands? Well, we had that challenge, or not we, but our parents and grandparents had that problem when they went from a 60, 70-hour work week to a 40-hour work week. So, these are not things or that we haven't experienced in the past or before. It's just a question of recognizing and learning from our mistakes. I mean, think about other technologies that have been introduced and have major, major impacts on life as we know it. Usually the inventor of a technology has no idea what the long-term implications are going to be of the technology. You've seen some of the commercials. Think about, the Wright brothers. If they came back today and we said, go into that DC-10 and we're going to fly you to Europe in 9 hours, they're going to say, I ain't going to that. Not a chance.
Right,
Or
exactly.
we heard about, the light bulb and Edison going to night football or baseball or whatever. They never dreamt of these things. I mean, think about uh, communications and the bell and the telephone. And now we've got everybody's walking around with this horrible thing all the time. Never dreamt of these kind of things. Even the people who first thought of the internet never thought of the impact that it's having. So creating a technology and how the technology is used and adopted are very, very different kinds of things. And the considerations for doing that really takes time and people learning how to adapt to the technology and use the technology and be willing to accept the technology. Um, you know, you, you, our grandparents, may they rest in peace, they wouldn't want to use this technology stuff. They're set in their ways and they don't want to change how they do things. I talk to my grandkids about having to change the channel on the TV. Me getting up and
Oh yeah.
go to the box and turn this thing. Once we were on a channel, it was on that channel all night because nobody wanted to change the channel. Now
Right, exactly. Now they don't want 30 seconds.
you can't watch a
60
commercial.
seconds at most, and then they're flipping.
And whoever is controlling the channel changer never does it fast enough for me, right? And you,
Yep.
you can do it much better than them. We can fast forward much better than I can do it much better than my wife or my husband or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. It's it's an exciting time. I mean, I can't retire now because it's so exciting. This everything that's going on and the impact that technology is having on everything is so exciting, and things that we only dreamt about when I first started. And I've been in IT from the very beginning. I was the first graduating class of computer science from NYU, so I go way back, and
I
I've gone
love it.
through all these different technologies when I was at IBM. It was very exciting, to be part of the how the changes in data and personal computing and networks, and it was wonderful to be part of it. And I oftentimes were actively involved in initiating the products and introducing them and things like that. But it's always the change and how you get people to understand and accept that the benefits to them and their organization to change and adopt to the technologies. And then people come up with new ideas that we never thought of, never dreamt of how to leverage the technology. And this is cool. This is good stuff. So it's an exciting
Absolutely.
time for everybody, whether they're a male, female, small company, big company, IT, non-IT. It's a very, very exciting time.
Absolutely. Opportunities are endless for sure. I only have a couple of questions left for you. One thing that I
More,
wanted
my
to,
God, I should be billing you based on the question.
I like it. I'm full of questions. I'm so curious.
Okay, that's all right.
So, you've built your business a lot around partnerships and working with universities and consulting firms. So, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about how you make that win win and what makes a good partnership as you work with these folks.
Well, you went to very different extremes when you talk about academia versus consulting firms or commercial organizations because they're different entities. Universities are very, very difficult to change.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about entrepreneurial kind of things that we're trying to offer, and the way we're doing it is totally different than universities have ever considered in the past. So So you'll get some academics that think that getting us to do courses, even though our faculty are professors from some of the best universities, but getting outsiders is heresy. They never, I mean, God, never do it. Never do it. I mean, I remember when I was a dean and wanted to bring in some of my old partners from IBM who did the education to the most senior level executives in the world about leveraging technologies. I want to bring them in as adjuncts. Heresy. They don't have a PhD. Some of them don't have master's degrees. They're not worthy. How could you put them in front? And a large part of it stems from the accreditation requirements. And consultants sometimes are the same thing in that you don't have the same experiences we have working in our clients. So getting them to recognize the value of doing something a little bit out of the ordinary is really the biggest challenge that I face in trying to get them to partner, with us. And sometimes it's easy, and others it's impossible. And recognizing the difference between the two and where to devote my time is really what's also a very important lesson learned into knowing, look, God bless you. You don't see it. I respect it. Goodbye and good luck. I'd like to be like a New Jersey guy, like I am, yeah, but no.
Right, exactly.
But
It's not for everybody.
Isn't for everybody. What we do, especially what we do, is a very different model than what most are providing. And to get people not just to see the merits of it, but willing to accept it and play in that space is really a challenge. And more so with the two types of organizations you mentioned. Academia is very difficult, and consulting firms are different. Commercial companies aren't as difficult because they want us to come right there and take advantage of the breadth of the offerings that we provide. So it's not quite as difficult. But I think if it was easy, I wouldn't be excited to get engaged in doing it. So it's I think it's good to be challenged. And candidly, there are always those times I say to myself, what the heck am I doing this for? I don't need to do this. And it's because of those wins that keep you going, and the challenges that you win and see the fruits of what you're doing that really make it all worthwhile. And an entrepreneur has got to be able to put up with a lot of no's
All right.
and understand and learn from the no's and persevere and continue fighting the good fight. And that's the only way you're gonna win, because it's a very challenging kind of thing, and it could be challenging because there's a lot of competition. It could be challenging because it's something totally new and innovative that nobody's ever heard of before. But those are the things that you have to recognize and accept, and be willing to keep going, and
Absolutely.
enjoy it. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, then punt, forget it.
That's a great point. Because we only have one life to live, and you may as well enjoy it. For sure.
Yeah, you're 100% right. If you're not
Last,
having a good time, forget it.
all right. So, last question I have for you.
Woo!
What is one secret that you wish you would have known starting out as an entrepreneur?
Um, Probably my lack of patience and having to basically bite my tongue more often than I would normally like to have done, in recognizing that, again, everybody's, no matter how wonderful of an idea I think I have, not everybody sees it quite that way. for the reasons that we've already discussed. And being able to have patience, be flexible, responsive, those are the things that are essential if you're going to really start in an area that's brand new and entrepreneurial.
For sure. I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on today. And before we wrap up, if our listeners would like to get in touch with you and learn more about what you're working on or sign up for one of your courses, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Oh, go on my website. www. Global IIM word. Global IIM.com. It's very comprehensive but easy to follow, and take a look at the kind of things that we're offering, and how you can get in touch with me is available on the website too. So it's global IIM one word.com. And I look forward to hearing from y'all. Did I say you all right? Is that's your language?
Close enough, yeah. Oh, well, thank you for listening to C-Suite Secrets. If you found today's conversation as valuable as I have, be sure to hit that like and follow button and share with another entrepreneur who's working in business. And if you want more tips on how to grow your business between episodes, join us on Facebook at C-Suite Insiders. And until next time, keep growing, and remember, you don't have to do this alone.